It is New Hampshire primary night. Woo! Long day for me, everybody. I did Maverick News tonight, New Hampshire primary coverage, and then just got off a space with Mary O'Noffel. Big space there. Also talking New Hampshire and Trump's big win on the GOP side. Of course, we all know who won the Democrat New Hampshire primary because no competition was allowed. Obviously, Joe Biden won that one. That was a coronation. And on that space with Mario earlier, I just had to get in a couple of punches at the Democrats. I said, Democrats, now you say that you're not happy with your candidate, Joe Biden. Now you say, oh, well, maybe he is kind of old. Maybe he's not doing a very good job. Maybe we could have found someone better. And I was like, hello, hello, Democrats, you had somebody better. Remember, his name was RFK Jr., and you ran him out of your party, and you wouldn't let him compete in New Hampshire, and you threatened to take away his delegates if he did campaign in New Hampshire. Yeah, we remember. We remember. And so, you asked for it, Biden. You
and his
asked for
Secret
this
Service
one.
protection.
And still no Secret Service protection. On top of that. Welcome, Sherry. How you doing? Good to see you.
Hey, sorry, I'm just so revved up after having that national meeting tonight and seeing what's to come for the future of us Kennedy volunteers, and it's pretty exciting. A
Yeah,
lot of
can
good
you give us an
information.
update? I was on the air the whole time doing primary night coverage, and I missed the meeting. And since you were there, I was hoping you could give those of us who missed it an update. What did we learn tonight?
Yeah, so I don't know if they're on. I don't think he's on the ballot yet in those states, but I know for sure. I was kind of on the road when I started it, but it was a very long meeting. I mean, I just got out of there. Some of us were still talking in the volunteer side, but so I know he has enough to make it on the ballot in Hawaii. He's already gotten that far. And Veterans for Kennedy, were you at the meeting tonight? I saw your hand go up right away.
No, I have my son is Taekwondo tonight on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so I can't make it on either of those nights. But yeah, I got some ballot stuff I want to talk about for Kansas in particular after you're done.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So basically, there's going to be volunteer. There's an app coming out for volunteers, which is going to be great. So we can connect directly with the campaign, and they'll roll out what they're doing, and we can all kind of get things more efficiently. And I mean, everything's going pretty good. There's no word about vice president yet, though. So
Yeah, I'm on the edge of my seat about that one. I was hoping when he was in Hawaii last week that maybe an announcement would be forthcoming, that Tulsi would be joining him on the ticket, but nope, didn't happen. Not this time. Hey, I see Holden Collada's here. How you doing tonight, Holden? Good to see you.
Hey, great to see you, Lori. This is fantastic news I'm just hearing about right now. I wish I could have made it to the meeting tonight. I was following the primary news though. But this is great news. Yeah.
I'm not really sure how the process works in those two states because I'm not a New Hampshireite or Hawaiian. I know there's a process. They have enough ballot signatures now as of tonight to meet the threshold, but they're going to continue to collect signatures in those states, if I understand correctly. Isn't that right? Just to make sure we've got more than enough in case they disqualify some signatures. We'll have more than we need. Is that right, Sherry?
yeah, and one of the other things she did suggest, Amaryllis was actually the one that hosted the call tonight. I think she's doing it moving forward, so that's great because we're getting it straight from the campaign manager, basically, or she is. So, but one thing she said was they're going to keep so if you go to www.kennedy24.com and you go under I think it's under, I'm trying to think I don't have it right in front of me, but on the website, there's a section for ballot access. And if you click on that page, you can click on your state, and that's going to be updated in real time. So Kyle Kemper's still hosting those calls, and he comes on our spaces sometimes too. So he's a good person to ask too about things. He works for the national campaign too. So but she said it will be in real time. It will be up to date. So whatever state you're in, you can just go on the website, you can click on it, and it'll tell you all the requirements, and it'll tell you how many signatures are needed, and I think it'll even say how many are collected, if I'm not mistaken.
Does anybody here happen to know how many signatures were required in New Hampshire? I'm not sure. What was the threshold for signatures?
The press release that they put out says 3,000.
Oh, that's reasonable. Yeah, that was easy to do in a day because they were so well organized. We had volunteers at like 80 different polling places across the state, which was incredible. And I heard that we had a little bit of a little bit of harassment and trouble at some of those polling places today when they were trying to shoo our volunteers away, telling them to go away or they might get arrested for trying to collect petition signatures, which is totally stupid. There are what they call electioneering laws. Every state has them, but they're wildly different from one state to the next, right? But the general idea is you can't go near a polling place wearing a T-shirt for a certain candidate or bumper stickers or signs or petitions or whatever, because you might influence the voters as they're arriving and leaving the polling station. So, like in my state, the rule is, I think, 50 feet. 51 feet to be exact. They tack on that extra foot. Nobody knows why. But, you have to be 51 feet from the entrance of the polling place. And boy, they enforce that. And sometimes they enforce it selectively. Depends on if you've got Democrats or Republicans running that particular county, and it can get very political from one county to the next. If they don't want you around, they find some reason to shoo you off. Like they'll come out there with a tape measure, and if you're past that, if you're at 50 feet instead of 51 feet, they'll tell you can't be there. But I think it was probably resolved without any police being called. I don't think anybody went to jail. But in New Hampshire, it's very reasonable. It's only 10 feet. They have a 10-foot rule in New Hampshire. So maybe some of our volunteers were standing 9 feet from the door and they told them to move back a foot. And so the whole thing was resolved. But hey, the long and short of it is we got the signatures we needed. And that's great. Does anyone happen to know about Hawaii and what the signature requirements are for the state of Hawaii? I understand we've exceeded that threshold too. Anybody going once, going twice? If you
I don't
know
know
and
that.
you're in the audience,
I know they have 5 counties.
only 5 counties.
Only 5 counties. That'd be like the easiest state to lead.
No, yeah, that's amazing. If anyone would like to speak, by the way, just send a speaker's request and I'll add you. This wasn't a planned space. It's just kind of an impromptu thing. We wanted to get together after the big volunteer meeting tonight, compare notes. People who missed it can find out what all was discussed and what we missed tonight, and just whatever else is on your mind. We can talk about the New Hampshire primary, Trump, Biden, but I'm more excited to talk about Kennedy. Tonight was, I believe, that had the Democrats allowed a fair fight and a fair primary, we would be sitting here right now talking about how Bobby Kennedy won the New Hampshire primary. And it's just sad that, that they didn't allow him to compete in New Hampshire, because I truly believe he could have won. What do you think, Holden?
Yeah, I think you nailed it when you got on Mario's space tonight towards the end and talked about that. I mean, I'm, glad that this campaign is not involved in the primary at all, because I think, even if say, Dean Phillips or whoever won tonight, hypothetically, the Democratic Party has said they're not going to respect that. They've said, they're going to put Biden up for reelection no matter what happens in the primary. So I'm very happy that this campaign is outside of that, because I think, that was the big disappointment after Bernie 2016, which, there was Trump on the right and then Bernie on the left kind of harnessed that populist energy, but he didn't follow through on it. He got screwed over by the Democratic Party and didn't take the fight to the party like the people wanted. A majority of Americans have been sick of this two-party system and say that a third party is necessary for a long time, for like 10 years plus now. And so I think in 2016, people wanted Bernie to take the fight to the system. They've been looking, on the right and left. A lot of people aren't exclusive to one side or the other. They're just like, I want someone to fight against this system that is rigged against me economically, politically, everything. So I'm thrilled we're out of the primaries right now. That's my thought on it.
Honestly, I am too. I was never happy about him running in the Democratic Party in the first place, but I still thought that he was the best Democrat in the Democratic Party. And if this party had any sense at all, they would nominate Bobby Kennedy. But hey, they shot themselves in the foot like Democrats always do. And now they're stuck with a very weak candidate in Joe Biden, a weak president. And we've seen now with the Iowa caucus and the New Hampshire primaries, already we can see where this is going. If it was a two-man race, Trump would likely win. But it's not a two-man race. It is a three-man race. And, Kennedy is performing incredibly well in the polls. And I think I'm really excited and also relieved to see that just today, on the day of the New Hampshire primaries, it's just kind of a satisfying feeling to know that we collected enough signatures in one day to meet that petition threshold to get on the ballot in November. So that's like a great consolation prize, even though Bobby did not get to compete in the Democratic Party primary. So what? We're going to get him on the ballot in November, and that's what really counts. Augustus, great to see you here. I'm glad you could join us tonight. You want to say hello?
Hey, Laurie. Thanks for having me. I couldn't agree more with you. Looking back at it, Bobby Kennedy was the only one campaigning in New Hampshire, and he was campaigning from the very beginning, from the very, very start. He had such a head start. I think it posed such a big threat to the Democratic National Convention that they went above and beyond the call of duty, what's necessary to make sure that he was not able to have the points counted towards him come the primary, and that's sad to see. But yeah, like you said, I think your take nailed it. If he would have been able to be on the ballot tonight, you would have seen a much different result, and it would have lit a fire in the hearts of many. But I'm looking at a poll right now saying that there's, I think, I just lost it, but 1 second while I get it back. It said something like 40 something percent of Americans in 2023 are independent. So we would have seen almost half of our country with a smile on their face and a fire in their belly tonight. Instead, we see a fraction of the country excited to see their candidate win. But, the numbers don't lie. He's leading number one in favorability by a landslide. And I think that come November, we're going to be able to get that 4.5% that he was talking about in order to win the whole thing.
That's right. That's right. I think we're showing people with the speed that we're collecting signatures and we're adding more states that we're going to be on the ballot. For all the naysayers out there who say that this is not a serious campaign and that Kennedy can't win, we beg to differ, and we're going to show you. And by the way, I wanted to thank Raymond who answered my question. I was asking how many signatures it takes to get on the ballot in Hawaii. It's 5,800, and we have nailed that. So we will be on the ballot in Hawaii too. I think that makes 3 states now, right? We've got Utah, we've got New Hampshire, and we've got Hawaii. Aloha. I'm
I
so
love
happy.
it.
I do
That's
too.
awesome. I wanted
Feels good.
to say quickly to Augustus's point, if you don't mind, Lori.
Yeah, go
Um,
right ahead.
I have these numbers down by heart, man. Like the number of independents today is 44%, if you average it out by year. And 20 years ago it was 31%. So 20 years ago it was evenly split, a third of the country each was independent, Democrat, Republican. And that's completely flipped now, where it's a quarter of the country each is Democrat, Republican, and like you said, almost half is independent. So this campaign is, I say this all the time, Lori, like you just said, this is a very serious campaign that's following, an independent movement that's been growing for decades. This isn't, coming just out of the blue, like a lot of mainstream media seems to think, because they're not, paying attention to what's going on. But there's a long-running movement, independent movement that's been, building for decades that's leading up to this. So yeah.
Hold on. I don't think it's because they're not paying attention. I think it's because the mainstream media is threatened by Mr. Kennedy. The mainstream media is censoring and stonewalling and blackballing him from the media because they know that if Mr. Kennedy ends up winning the election, a lot of those networks aren't going to be getting money from Pfizer any longer. They're not going to be getting the same type of treatment that they've been getting for so long, and there's going to be some serious changes within the mainstream media. So in order to protect and self-preserve, they're going to blackball, they're going to downplay, they're going to stonewall. But if you have those numbers, can you please send them to me with a source? Because if I could get a source to those numbers, I'll make a graphic of a poll and we could get them on Mr. Kennedy's official accounts. That's kind of my
Oh,
job. So
I have a graphic made. I'll drop it in the chat right now. It's from Gallup. I charted out. So Gallup has, they have like between 12 and 30 polls they do every year tracking party affiliation. And they did it back to 2004 data is available. So I went through all that and charted the average for each year, and I'll drop that poll in the
yeah,
chat.
yeah, definitely drop that in the chat for everybody. But message me the graphic, the source, and I'll make my own little version of it that's on the Kennedy branding. The Kennedy branding guidelines, and we'll get that information circulating on these large accounts that he owns. So we could get it to a wider audience. Thank you so much.
Love it. Yeah, I'll send you all that.
That's
Fantastic.
actually something that Amaryllis was mentioning too tonight, that with their marketing, it seems like the advertisements with the polls get the most amount of people coming over. So it's just like something that it's natural what people do. But I just wanted to mention, I threw in the website for the Ballot Access headquarters down in that little comment section. And also Kyle Kemper shared that website I put in there, Live Free. It's basically a site where you can go to and get brochures. Like we were talking about, some of the bigger ones are good for like retirement homes and stuff like that, where people don't have internet access. It has a lot of information about Kennedy's policies. And so he has like little packages that you can order on there from his website. So just wanted to share that.
Sorry, I just added Veterans for Kennedy back. I'm sorry if you got kicked down to listener status. Veterans for Kennedy, can you hear me? Go ahead and unmute.
Oh yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So I want to make a couple points. But Lori, always great energy. Thank you for doing what you do. Holden, same with Augustus and everyone that really throws in hard. Jay, I see a lot of Sherry. The Democrats at this point, with what's going on with their, primary, it is what it is. Let Biden sail away. It's, water under the bridge in a way. They didn't deserve Kennedy. And honestly, I think as an independent, he gets a bigger swath of the vote, ability to get a bigger swath of the vote, and chip off at the right and the left at the same time. The third thing is, as the ballot access thing is coming up for certain states. I'm in Kansas. Right now, Republicans in Kansas are trying to pass and basically make it harder for independents and third parties here to get on the ballot. So currently it's 5,000 signatures or $10,000, and they're trying to raise that to basically a certain percentage for independents that's actually higher than third parties would have to get. But they're pushing that right now. I actually posted in the Kennedy Family Values chat. But it's coming up, and basically, I see that as they see Kennedy as a threat. So
Yeah, I saw that last night, and it floored me. Aren't they trying to raise it to like 25,000 signatures?
yes, and that's a lot here in Kansas. Because I mean, you think
Yeah.
about it in Kansas, we have about 900,000 registered Republicans. We have about 700,000 registered Democrats. For the Libertarians, very small. There's only about 25,000 of them that are registered for their party. But it's one of those things. Like it's going to be a big lift. We'd have to get really signatures the size of the third largest party here.
I mean, that is totally ridiculous. And I think they're doing it for the same reason you do. They see Kennedy coming. And I anticipate they're going to do this in other states as well to try and raise the bar, make our work harder, make this more costly, raise the fees. I'm right next door to
So
it
if you're
here
on the
in Oklahoma.
campaign, if whoever's on the campaign, if you could push that up, it's probably better that that Kansas get pushed ahead on the ballot access push sooner than later, because either if they're going to get the signatures or they're going to pay the 10 grand, it's still open right now. This bill hasn't passed. And if they get on before it passes, we're in, so.
Good point. Yeah, there you go.
Can you explain that a little bit better for me? Because I don't understand what you're saying.
So they're making the ballot access so basically they're going to increase the amount of signatures that independents and third parties have to get on the ballot right now. Currently, it's set at 5,000 for both. So what they're trying to do is base it on a percentage that independents or third parties got at the last election of, say, 5%. So if the biggest independent that ran the last election, they'd have to get at least 5% of that on signatures. So that probably wasn't much this last election. But say after Kennedy, the next independent's going to have to get a whole lot of signatures to get on that ballot. But they're also taking away the money option where you can just pay the 10,000 and get on the ballot as well. And that's going to be incredibly hard for the third parties such as libertarians and whoever else. Whereas, whatever Joe Jorgensen got in the last election, they'll have to get 5% of that.
Okay, let me make sure I understand you. So currently the law in Kansas says that you can, is it an either or?
It's a flat 5,000.
Pay the money and get 5,000?
Yeah, it's 5,000 or $10,000. 5,000 signatures or $10,000.
I see.
The money's going to be eliminated.
Oh, that sucks.
Because it would be mad easy for us to just pay the 10 grand and get it over with.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm lucky to live in the state of Oklahoma where it's very easy for an independent candidate to get on the ballot. There are no petition signature requirements in my state. You raise $3,800, you pay the money, boom, you're on the ballot. That's it. So we can probably raise that in one event in one night here in Oklahoma, and we'll get him, as long as we can do that before July, he'll be on the ballot here. I wish all states were like that. It would just make so much more sense.
That's all I had. I wanted to land there, but thanks everyone for what they do.
How can that even be?
Thank you. Go ahead, Sherry. Yeah,
how can that even be legal, like on an election year? How can they change the election laws on an election year? That doesn't seem like
they do that. So look at Texas during 2020. There were 23. No, actually not in 2020. It's 2022. That was an off year, but still there were a lot of local elections. During that election, just like 3 months prior, they had kicked off 23 libertarians off the ballot, and then those libertarians took it to their Supreme Court on an emergency injunction. And the only thing that saved them and put them back on the ballot was the Texas Supreme Court. It happens all the time, and it never makes the news, but unless it's Trump getting kicked off the ballot in Colorado or Maine. Other than that, I mean, there's other cases. Like the guy I voted for, I used to be a Tennessee voter years ago. During 2020, the guy I voted for, he turned all his stuff in on time. But Tennessee, they didn't put him on the ballot, so I had to write him in. And there's nothing more depressing than writing in your candidate. But you know what? It's standing on principle.
I lived in Texas for 25 years, and man, it is so hard to get independent and third party candidates on the ballot. I could tell you some stories. We went through it with the Ralph Nader campaign back in 2008 and then again in 2012. And we couldn't ultimately get him on the ballot. That's how tough it is in Texas.
Same thing happened in New York in
Mm.
2020. You know, it was like right after the pandemic happened, there was chaos. You know, people were obviously distracted by that. They tripled the number of signatures required for ballot access. I think, I don't know if it was specifically for governor. This was Larry Sharp, the libertarian candidate for governor, who was talking about this. But they tripled the number of signatures that he required from 15,000 to 45,000
I
under
remember
the
that.
guise of COVID and
Yes.
all that. Yeah.
And they did that to Diane Sayre when she was running for Chuck Schumer's Senate seat also. Yep. I remember.
Yeah,
Remember
so it
well.
is absolutely, you know, legal to have, I think, what would be called election interference in the middle of election years like this. Jay, I'd love to hear from you, my friend. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. Especially seeing the title of this space. That was news to me when I saw it, and it just goes to show you the momentum. It's picking up and it's picking up quickly. So, like you guys said, it's different ballot rules to get on the. I'm sorry, it's different rules to get on the ballot in different states, but like over here in Texas, I'm glad you mentioned it, Lori. It's a real tall order because we also have to get it done in a short period of time. So we only have like a little bit over a month to collect. What is it? A couple hundred thousand signatures, like across the whole state. So and we have to ask people to not vote in the Democratic or Republican primaries. Otherwise, their vote won't be counted. So, there's
And
so
that's
many.
where they get you, Jay. I
Yeah,
remember when we were doing the petition signature collection for Nader. There
man.
were, because the voters don't understand. You try to explain it to them. Like, first you ask them, did you vote in the Super Tuesday Texas primary? Yes or no?
Yep.
And sometimes, I swear to God, I don't even know if they remember that they voted. They'll say they didn't. And then when they check, then they sign the petition. But later their signature gets invalidated because it turns
Be-
out they did vote in the primary.
exactly. And the thing is, that's why it's important, I think, to try to find a way to tap into people who aren't normally politically engaged, because I do think it's possible, though, because a relatively small number of people actually vote in the primaries. You're only talking about like 15-20% of the voting population here in Texas. So there's still a lot of people out there. It's just actually getting the volunteer network wide enough, so we could have enough people out there actually collecting signatures. And the way the team has done it over here in Texas, they've broken it down into like individual districts, so it's like manageable goals. And I'm feeling good about the whole thing. And a little bit of a side note, but still important, I think I had an interaction earlier today with someone, who was upset about RFK's Israel stance, and it essentially ended with him admitting that, in the end, if it's RFK, Trump and Biden as choices, like on the ballot, that even as much of a problem as they have with his Israel stance, he does sound like the best option, like between those three. So, at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with people expressing, their opinion on his Israel stance. But I just wanted to put it out there. Don't give up on people. It ain't anti-RFK out there. It's just RFK to be supporters out there. So, I'm feeling good about this whole thing. And yeah, I'll land the plane there for now. But I'm glad to see, we're on the ballot in 2 more states. It's getting real. We can feel it.
Woohoo!
So yeah, let's go. Kennedy 24.
All the way, all the way. We're not in this to lose it. We're in it to win it. We're going to do this, guys. I see Ellie. I wanted to say hello to you. It's been a while since we talked. How are you, my friend? Are you there, Ellie?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I got to run to the other side of my house because because my whole family's asleep. No, I'm just enjoying listening to you guys. You all do so much work, and appreciate everything you guys are doing. I'll just say very quickly, my husband and I are 100% all in. And my husband's been talking to his coworkers, and a lot of them are supporting RFK. So they're union members. So it's, a lot of them had already decided to support RFK before he talked to them. So it's exciting to see. I think momentum is growing. People don't want Biden or Trump.
Absolutely. And, you know, I've been a third party voter now for almost 30 years. And I've watched this movement grow slowly, painfully slowly over 25 years. I've watched it get bigger and bigger. I remember the Ron Paul revolution really turbocharged it. And in some way, the surge of Trump in 2016, a lot of the movement kind of folded into MAGA. But then that splintered in 2020 when a lot of Trump voters were disappointed in the president's performance. And they sure as hell didn't like Joe Biden. They definitely didn't like Hillary Clinton. And I've kind of watched those polling numbers climb, but they've exploded in the last 2 years, where we now see that the majority of voters consider themselves to be unaffiliated or independent and reject the two-party system. They've just been waiting for the candidate. Everyone that you talk to who doesn't like Biden or Trump, you ask them, well, if you had a better option, would you vote independent or third party? And they're like, yes, we're just waiting for a viable candidate to come along, right? And there hasn't been one until now. And I think the more people hear from Bobby, in fact, I know it's true, I see it every single day, the more they hear him, especially in long form interviews and conversations and podcasts, the more they like him and they understand that the mainstream media has been lying about him. And Augustus, I think we lost Augustus, but I just wanted to put an exclamation point on what he said, because I've worked in the media for 35 years, a lot of corporate media. He was absolutely right that one of the big reasons they're trying to ignore, vilify, and lie about RFK Jr. is because so much of their advertising comes from big pharma. Like literally 70% of mainstream media advertising is pharmaceutical advertising. So naturally, they've got their interests on the line here. Kennedy has said that on day one of his administration, he would sign an executive order banning big pharma from advertising on the public airwaves, anything regulated by the FCC. He would have the power to do that. So they're scared to death of him. Are you kidding me? That's why they're ignoring him on the mainstream media. Look on any network that's regulated by the FCC, and you're probably going to see a lot less Kennedy on those networks. You know what I mean?
Brought
Hey,
to
Johnny,
you
this
by
seems like a good
Pfizer.
time to bring you in. This is right up your alley. Hey, Johnny.
Hey, great to see you guys. Great to see everybody. Yeah, it's no bueno. It's not just big pharma. It is like, gosh, all these corporate interests that Bobby's standing squarely against that don't want him in there, and who are, paying for the ads on the mainstream media. And so yeah, of course. Gosh, this is like the great hope of clearing out this corruption, which is just, gosh, has overcome our agencies, our government institutions. And yeah, we're up against, I mean, you add it all up, this is like maybe the most powerful evil forces that have ever been on the face of the earth. And they're not going to go down easily, guys. So that's just my big thing is let's like run up the score. Let's try to win hearts and minds across the board. And really, I mean, they're going to be putting their thumbs on the scales. So we want to, besides, we just want to get in there with a big mandate. We want to win by 20 points. Bobby talks about a peaceful revolution. What a great way to usher that in, and just in a landslide victory. And I just really think we can reach everyone. Just everyone loves Bobby. if they got an open mind and they really just take the time to listen. So I just think that's the great invite. We just got to keep on inviting friends to consider them.
Well, I just want to thank everybody in this room who's listening right now or who listens to the replay later. Everybody out there who retweets Bobby's words or his interviews or his tweets or anyone on Team Kennedy's tweets. We're all Team Kennedy, right? You guys do an amazing job on social media of getting his message out there. I mean, I know that, and I think it was discussed at the meeting tonight, Sherry. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard that they talked quite a bit about how some social media platforms are still throttling the campaign, throttling Bobby, but not engaging in such blatant censorship as they were, because now they're involved in litigation. Now Bobby is suing them for censoring him. So I think they're being more careful and not censoring him as much. But Sherry, did they talk about that? And what did I miss at the meeting tonight? Maybe Sherry stepped
There
away.
was definitely a question on throttling here on Twitter, and yeah, Amaryllis was fielding that and sharing about how she's heard reports of that, but how obviously I think this is like the best platform for free speech, and yeah, we've seen that, gosh, across Facebook. Man, that's like the worst. You post something about Bobby, and you just really don't get the reach or that you usually would. So.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that too. Facebook is still much more censorious of Kennedy and all things COVID than any other platform, it seems. Even YouTube's been easing up and not censoring as much on the Kennedy stuff, which is good. But again, that's because he's suing them. He's also suing Facebook, by the way. But yeah, I think that we can get around this Berlin Wall of information. I mean, they're always coming up with new and creative ways to censor us. So I don't know what they have in mind for this election year. It's going to be one hell of a ride. I know that.
Absolutely. I would say, too, to encourage people, I encourage people a lot to just start, doing citizen journalism on your own, like what Lori's doing great work. It doesn't have to be that kind of organized, that level of organized, though. We have all of these tools available now, like X, but tons of other platforms as well. Substack is fantastic as well. But, I'd encourage people to focus locally, like talk about some local issues too. Like that, I think that's a great way to connect with people and to connect your volunteers in the area around, some issues that really matter to the people in that area. That you can connect to, the national issues, because a lot of these things are local at the end of the day. There's a lot of corruption in local governments too, that demands some citizen journalists to start taking on. So I'd encourage everybody to focus there if you have a calling to do that.
I just added Sherry back in. Sherry, did you want to chime in on that since you were at the meeting too?
No, I'm sorry, I missed it. I was trying to find Robert Kennedy's Declaration of Independence speech, and I put it down in the comments because I just love it. So just wanted to share with everyone coming in here. But I fell off.
I was just going to ask, you might not have been listening or missed the question. The question was, what was discussed at tonight's volunteer meeting about censorship on social media, throttling, shadow banning of the campaign or of Mr. Kennedy? Is there any new info on that?
I can't recall anything off the top of my head, but maybe Johnny might know. He was there too.
Yeah, he just answered. I wanted to give you a chance to answer too.
Oh, sorry. No, I'm sorry. It's getting kind of...
For those of us who missed it. And yeah, it is getting kind of late. We won't go too late on this space, but I wanted to give everybody a chance to chime in, tell us about your day, tell us about your thoughts on the New Hampshire primary and the path forward for Bobby on the way to November. I think we're off to an amazing start this early in the game, and I see a very bright future ahead. I see that we're going to easily meet our ballot signature petition requirements. I believe we're going to do that handily in every state. I want to see us get double the number of signatures required, just to make sure whatever shenanigans they pull, we have to be ready for it, because I know that they will try anything that they can. You see what they're doing to Trump right now with the challenges to him on several state ballots. So you know that we've got some challenges coming our way, but that's okay. We got this. We got this. Team Kennedy. No problem. And I'm just so happy about New Hampshire getting all those signatures today, more than enough to get us on the ballot there and to get us on the ballot in Hawaii. And I see IndyCat would like to speak, and I'm going to add Augustus back in so that you guys can join the conversation. Hey, Augustus, can you hear me now? Augustus, going once, going twice. Are you there?
He's showing as listener for me still.
Me too.
Let me try this again. Got to hit the magic button. Okay. Did that get you?
I still see him as listener. I see Indy's up as a speaker though now with her hand up.
Yeah, let's go to Indy next. Hi, Indy.
Hey guys, exciting news out of New Hampshire tonight. Bryce just told me this is the third state. Somehow I missed we got Hawaii, if that's the case.
Yes, ma'am. 3
Awesome.
states now.
Fantastic. I wanted to mention, and I put it in the purple pill in the comments, that, you know, the way that we're reaching out to DeSantis and Vivek supporters, I think after tonight in New Hampshire, for the Democrats, 25% of those who voted in New Hampshire tonight, it looks like, went for Marianne or Dean Phillips. So that's a pretty good chunk of the Democratic base. I think we should be going and welcoming, reaching out to their supporters as much as we can as well. Would love to, you know, half the Republican base looks like they're non-Trump voters that could come our way. And if we got even 25% of the Democrats, I think that's a path to victory. So I just want to put that out there before we wrap things up tonight. Get excited to, you know, hit the internet again tomorrow and trying to reach as many people as we can. So thank you guys.
Thank you. What do we have on tap for South Carolina? Does anybody know what's happening there? With the South Carolina primary coming up, I always look at primaries as an excellent opportunity for us to collect signatures at the polling places, just like we did today in New Hampshire. That's what put us over the top. So I hope that our ground game in South Carolina is strong. I'm sure it is, but I'd love an update. If anybody here knows, I'll go to Kyle next. Howdy, Kyle.
What's
Good to
up,
see you.
guys? Yes.
What's up?
We just concluded, or actually, we still have our national Zoom call going on. It started at 7:30 and it's 11:30. So, what's that? 4 hours on, and the the crew is just still going on, and this is an uncommon event, and I wanted to kind of pop over here and just say hi to everybody, and also just invite everybody as well on Tuesdays, every other Tuesday. So this Tuesday, not 2 Tuesdays from now, there's going to be these calls. We had Amaryllis there answering a bunch of questions and providing updates, and we introduced the national field directors, and then we had Larissa Trexler from New Hampshire come on and say that they absolutely annihilated, or not annihilated. They did an amazing job, and collected all the signatures. They clipped the threshold, like the required threshold for New Hampshire. I think we have we're shooting for buffers too. So I think we're over that in New Hampshire, and I think in Hawaii too we hit the required threshold, and now we're just going for bonus points. So, mad love, and I think this is a great example of how we can leverage these primary days to get out the supporters, get out the volunteers, get out the tribe, get out the activators, the falconers, the beacons, the light lampers, what are light lamplighters, whatever you want to call, our community, our movement, towards activating and organizing on, these days when people are being civically engaged. And the message that came loud and clear from Larissa was we were so stoked to sign the petitions. Like they're like, I might not even vote for him, but hell yeah, I will sign this petition because absolutely he should be on every single ballot. So boom. And like, we got like, just newsflash, 286 days until the election. So we got lots of time here. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And let's enjoy this journey. Let's celebrate all these little wins. Let's keep our vibrations super high. And, by having a high vibe, we'll be protected and we'll be magnetic as well. So,
Absolutely. And just moments ago, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. put out a statement here on X, and I'll just read it to you. His thanks to everybody. Thanks to our dedicated supporters and volunteers who made this great accomplishment possible. American democracy should be more than just picking between two candidates anointed by shadowy institutions. And also Stephanie Spear, press secretary for the campaign, she says, huge news, Kennedy campaign collected in just one day the 3,000 signatures needed to get Bobby on the ballot in New Hampshire. Yeah.
yeah.
Right on.
Let's go.
I am so happy. I am so proud of this campaign. So proud of everybody who got out today in New Hampshire and did it in one day, despite some people trying to put roadblocks in our way. At some of these polling places, we had apparently some police harassment. They were threatening to arrest our folks. I think they had to get out the measuring tape to see if they were exactly 10 feet from the door, that sort of thing. They were really trying to mess with us in some of those locations today, probably locations controlled by the Democratic Party. Some of those New Hampshire Democrats really didn't like Bobby. As some of you would recall last spring, they were giving him every indication that they didn't want him in the party. They didn't want him campaigning in the state or opening offices there. And of course, as you know, the DNC was threatening to take away his delegates when he was running as a Democrat. So I love it that he's now not running as a Democrat and doing so well. So it just makes, hopefully the DNC will look at this as a lost opportunity. Tonight, the Democrats could have done really well in New Hampshire had Bobby Kennedy been allowed to run, but he was literally not allowed to run.
Well, the Democratic Party, Lori, is Democratic in name only, and
That's
is
right.
resembles far more, that 100-year-old German party or 90-year-old German party than the Democratic Party of JFK and RFK. So, I heard somebody last night also berating oh, Bobby's all just about Democratic policies. And it's like, what are you talking about? Kennedy Democratic policies, centrist, sensible policy, as opposed to this radical nonsense, division, divide and conquer, fear-based policy, which doesn't serve anybody except for those who seek to control through fear. So peace.
Well, that's right. That's right. And one of the things that is unique about Bobby in the Kennedy family, except I would say he's more like his dad than any of the other Kennedys, because people think of Robert F. Kennedy Sr. and they think of the great liberal, but he really had a conservative streak in him. He was more like his father, Joe Kennedy, in a lot of his beliefs. He was much more a free market guy. In so many ways, he was a law and order guy when he was attorney general. And before that, Bobby Kennedy Sr. had some very conservative values too. And I think those were passed on. You see that more in RFK Jr. than you do in his siblings. They tend to be more, straight down the line Democratic Party. They toe the party line, but he's always had that conservative streak. And I don't know if you guys knew this, but he was quite the admirer of Barry Goldwater. And in 2006 or 2007, there was a reissue of Goldwater's classic book, The Conscience of a Conservative. And Bobby Kennedy Jr. wrote the afterword to that book, which is quite good, where he just expressed his admiration for a lot of Goldwater's qualities. And in fact, I wanted to jump over to Dave Stoller here because I know that he was on Team DeSantis. I don't know if he's on Team Kennedy yet or still trying to make up his mind, but
Oh
now
no,
that
no,
DeSantis is
I'm yeah, no, I'm definitely on Team Kennedy. I mean, him and Ron were
He's
always,
all in, folks. He's all in. Let's go. Welcome.
yeah, I mean,
yay!
they were
Welcome
always,
to the coalition, my friend.
no, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, those two were always, you know, pretty much even. I was trying to help Ron get out of the Republican primary, but you know, it just wasn't going to happen. No, I'm happy to be here. I'm out sharing a lot of content. You know, I'm trying to talk to Republicans. You know, I've voted Republican for quite a while, but I've always been impressed with Bobby Kennedy. I've been in the health freedom movement. I've spoken to him once back in 2014. Very impressive guy. You know, I'm trying to convince more, you know, more conservative minded people that he's not just a protest vote. Some are moving over, you know, I would say maybe 25%. But there's a lot of people that are kicking the tires, you know. So I want to keep working on that. If you guys had any, I've got a couple, you know, there's a couple of videos I'm sharing, one on the Second Amendment, one that was just put out recently. I found, you know, I found a video on his environmental policies, and I really like his idea of regenerative agriculture and kind of the anti-Monsanto, anti-GMO platform, which you see a lot in Europe. And you know, I just think he appeals to you know, a lot of people. And as long as people just aren't so, you know, locked into this left-right divide, which I think is really stupid even today. If we could just convince, you know, them to do that, because I was also, you know, I voted very enthusiastically the last two election cycles for Donald Trump. And it's just, I mean, I think a lot of people like me have just found that it's too much. It's just too toxic. You know, it's like it's turning into a bad movie. And I've noticed even some influencers kind of around DeSantis sphere are starting to really kick the tires. So I don't know, Lori, you're really good. You really explain things well, and I think you brought up some stuff about Kennedy that I didn't even know. You know, I'd like to maybe, if possible, even get you into a couple of these DeSantis spaces, because and or maybe I'll just take what you say
Sure.
and kind of go in there, and because yeah, I like I said, I think there's movement, but there should be a lot more movement. So
286 days, Greg. Or Dave, sorry. We got 286 days to
yeah, and I'm
continue
going to get
building this up.
involved. I'm in Colorado. I'm going to get involved. I'll go get some signatures. We'll get them on the ballot. We can't start till May, but yeah, I've always respected him tremendously. So yeah, let's get it done.
Oh man, I think that's exciting. Like knowing, like, okay, we can't start till May. That means like come May, man, Colorado, that's going to be just a buzzing place with signature collection. And same with New York. We've got like 45 days to get 75,000 signatures in New York. Like, let's go. Like
Yeah.
totally. Like our teams are so fired up and so ready there. Like, oh man.
Well,
Like
also, if you guys could kind of tell me how you see the state of the campaign right now, because I think there's movement. You know, I'm just hoping, you know, he can get into debates. I heard he's in the debates, but I haven't heard formally. I think he can make a good case there. You know, I'd like to see him
when are the debates generally?
Late summer, early fall.
Yeah, so it's like we're talking
Yeah, it usually
August.
starts in September.
You know, and I think the goal has to be, you know, to try to get him in the upper 20s, because if you can get him there, if you can get him within striking distance, then I think a bigger group of people will take the plunge, right, and not see it as just a, you know, a protest vote. So, you know, we
Well,
do
if
what
we
we can
can
do.
pull that off, that'll be the first time since 1992 that an independent candidate has been on the debate stage.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it
Well,
happens.
I think it's going to happen. I mean, we've got like we've like just based on the current trajectory, like it's I think the polls are going to be outstanding by that time, and the sentiment and the movement will be absolutely a buzz. So long as there isn't catastrophe. Um, I think we'll be in good position. You never know, what tricks are going to be pulled, but I look at this from we have to win. We can't win small. Like the system's too corrupt to win small. Like if it's anywhere close, if it's just 1 million votes that's needed to swap it, look, whether you believe it or not, they've probably done that. They may have done that in the last election. They have done that in the one before, maybe the one before that too. So it's we really need to have a massive populace coming together, unity ticket here. And
Yeah, I would agree.
270 isn't even the number. My personal, the best possible outcome is 538, and that's every friggin' state. And get all of them, and just send those two parties packing. And over the next 286 days, we see the formation of the We the People Party. 5 have commenced, a 6th state, the Texas Independent Party in Texas. And there's the opportunity for further growth of a coalition of independents, as well as you just look at the talent involved within this movement, and the intelligence and the collective intelligence. The open source community is huge. There's so much drive for that. The Assange, the Snowden kind of talk, the Ross Ulbricht talk, a lot of other people who have faced criminal injustice, and the tribes around them who have been fighting, who have been seeking them. If there's a real clarion call for justice around these issues, and for reevaluating and opening the books on these cases, the conditions are all here for a real transformation. And part of this is the vulnerability of not knowing what's going to happen, but it's let's just do our best, no matter what. None of us
That's
know.
the fun part, is not
Exactly.
knowing what's going to happen next. That's why we do it. This is fun.